Hey y'all, welcome back to another casual UFC breakdown with your favorite casual casually breaking it down. UFC 309 edition, giving our last minute dynamic picks. But you might be wondering, what is a dynamic pick? Well, maybe we can start by exploring what dynamic instability is, the very name of this channel. Have you ever wondered what it's like to associate and disassociate at the same time? To be certain of yourself yet take no accountability? To constantly alter between catastrophe and rescue? Life is made of cells, do we agree? You are made of cells, yes? Chris Weidman, cells, yes? We agree. Your cells have cytoskeletons, maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't. Those are made of actin filaments and microtubules. Actin filaments are in red, microtubules in green. Red and green, okay? And then there's some nuclei as well in blue. You've heard of this? You've heard of a nucleus? I think you might have. Well, the skeleton is why you have structure. That's what we gotta know. It's why you're not a blob. It's also why you're not a rock. Okay, it's both of those things. Let's zoom in, you see? All right, so what we got here, this is the centricle. This is what makes up microtubules. All right, and this is the key to our dynamic instability. Dynamic instability. Zoom in. Even more, zoom in. GTP hydrolysis of beta tubulin is essential for filament production, so therefore we are all dynamically unstable. You hear this? Yes, GTP hydrolysis of beta tubulin is essential for filament production. I'll say it one more time. GTP hydrolysis of beta tubulin is essential for filament production. Therefore, we are all dynamically unstable. Okay? Are you with me? You see? No, that's okay. Well, you can tune in next time for another lesson. Before we get into it, I gotta say, wow. What a crazy night for UFC 308. I predicted or really hoped for the exact opposite of what happened. But that's okay. You know, that's the beauty of combat sports, and we respect that. Shout out Ilya Topuria. Shout out Hamza Chimaev. Okay, Ilya, I'm sorry that I called you a little bitch. I didn't mean it. I'm just a girl. He doesn't care. Okay, let's move on. Really great card. Also want to say shout out to last week. That was really amazing as well. It was like so many finishes. They didn't even know what to do to make up for the time. Magny versus Prates, the fighting nerds, they're on the come up. And that's going to be relevant later. Dynamic picks are about vibes. It's a strategic analysis at times. But really, ultimately, you have to go with your heart and soul because that is what combat sports is all about. You can't That is what betting and that is what thinking about sports in general is all about. Truly, at the end of the day, we got to bet with our heart and soul. So first up, Mickey Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Oh my gosh. Sorry if I did not say that right. We'll work on that, okay? I don't really have a lot to say here. I just like how both of these guys fight. We have the willing to die statistic. Listen, I don't know, okay? I don't exactly know how this is going to go down, but Mickey Gall's my guy. Like, I'll never forget the Sage Northcutt. Okay, so that's what we're going with. We're going to go Mickey Gall decision. Crazy fight via decision. Okay, next, heavyweight slammer. Marcin Tybura, he was like, kind of used to be like, feel like the dark horse. Historically, one of the biggest heavyweight threats has, been kind of like hit or miss here and there. I kind of think this is a setup for our guy, Deniz. He's set up to succeed here. He's on the undefeated record. So I just think this is going to be something. It's going to be something. And I'm going to go with Joe Nada because I feel like it's a setup. All right. Old. But just because it's old doesn't mean that it's not good. Old is classic, okay? And then speaking of old, we have Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. I'm sorry, old. Old but legend versus old-ish but legend. Okay? It's going to be amazing. Jim Miller, he's an absolute gamer. We all know this. He's everybody's favorite cousin. He's my favorite cousin. Maybe he is my cousin. You wouldn't know this, all right? He's going to be looking for the kill. That's what we love about Jim Miller. It's going to be an amazing fight. Could be fight of the night because that's just who Jim Miller is. That is also who Damon Jackson is. Damon Action Jackson. A10 versus Action. I love that combo. That's going to be really great. He's going to be looking for the submission. I feel like either way we're going to get a finish here. Kind of hard to say. Jim Miller is a survivor. And when he does survive, he often loses via decision. But I think if he gets it done, maybe he can finish Damon Jackson. It's possible. Okay? And I actually think that's what might happen. So we're going to go with Jim Miller, TKO. All right, speaking of old, let's move on to another old. Yay, we love olds. Chris Weidman, the All-American. Hell yeah, he is. Can we think of a better name for this man? Love him so much. He's been looking hot as hell. All right, he is looking great. He is looking absolutely fresh 40. He really likes to hit you in the head. If you look at the statistical breakdown, that's where most of his strikes are going to be. But can we please avoid the eye pokes this time? I'm begging you. I really think, though, if he wants to win, he's got to mix it up, get a little bit wrestle a little bit with Eric Anders. But I think also we got some juju going on here. We got a little bit of bad luck on our hands. So maybe you could see this in two ways. Eric Anders has never won in the MSG, but I think he's fought there 3 times. This could not even be true, but that's what I think is true. He's seeming fresh, but he's lost that many times. Maybe the arena is cursed for him. Maybe that is simply enough for us to pick Chris Weidman. I'm going to pick Chris Weidman via decision just because he's my All-American boy, okay? He's not yeah boy, he's my All-American boy. Okay, next fight is Marcus McGee versus Jonathan Martinez. I don't know anything about this fight. Can somebody please help me? Because I can tell that it's a banger. I know that I don't know. I don't have any context, so somebody let me know. Just have to keep the Fighting Nerd hype train going. We got to go for Mauricio Rufy. I feel like for 2 reasons too. Also because his Peruvian warrior opponent James Lone Top, he missed weight, which is never a good sign. I feel like it's hard to go with the fighter who missed weight. And we're on the Fighting Nerd hype train, okay? So we're going with Mauricio Rufy. He's going to get the TKO because the Fighting Nerds are pulling in some serious strength these days. Those guys have been hitting. He's got that Fighting Nerd strength. That's the new phrase we're trying to get going. Fighting Nerd strength. We got a flyweight banger next. Vivian Araujo versus Karine Silva. These are 2 people who are definitely going for the murder. It's a fight for the top 10. I feel like that's always really gets people amped up. Fighting for that top 10 spot is a pretty big deal. Both these girls are really, really vicious. Karine Silva, I'm really looking out for her because she's got that fat finish rate. Watch out for the heel hook too. She might go for that. This is definitely her biggest test yet, but I feel like she's going to do it. And I think she might be able to do it TKO, so that's what we're going to say. All right, moving on to Baby Bickle. Baby Bickle Bo Nickel. Baby Bickle Bo Nickel from the Contender Series. He has a lot of hype behind him, but we still don't really know if he has what it takes. That's the general consensus, of which I definitely agree with. And I'm really not sure that he does. He doesn't have the look in his eye. As we observed earlier today when Mike Tyson slapped Jake Paul in the face, he had that look in his eye. There's something sort of carnal about it, almost as if the lines between the fight and reality are just, they're kind of blurring at this point. I don't see it in Bo Nickel. I see a wrestler. But we'll see, maybe he'll go for the takedowns against our favorite Bear Jew. Everybody, Bear Jew. We love Paul Craig. We love him. Great guy. Don't know him, but he seems like a great guy. I just don't think it's looking very good for Baby Bo Nickel. Baby Bickle Bo Nickel. It hasn't been looking good. It's been a little bit of an underwhelming performance overall. I think that despite Paul Craig, this is definitely a setup. Like they're trying to save the Bo Nickel hype train clearly, but I think that people are really overlooking Paul Craig here. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to submit him because being a good wrestler doesn't make you not vulnerable to submissions. And let me tell you about Paul Craig. If there's one thing about Paul Craig, he is submission ready. He's BJJ ready. He's dangerous on the back. He'll get you there. And I think that could happen. Even get him in on the back. Getting Baby Bo Nickel on the back. It's all a setup, but fuck him. I feel like Bear Jew's going to come on top. Co-main event. Charles Do Bronx Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. Iron Chandler. That's such a classic. Do Bronx versus Iron. Sounds like a code. Anyway, the co-main event is really amazing because we get to redo a fight that was absolutely explosive to begin with. I mean, we only had 2 rounds of it, but we saw classic Michael Chandler. We saw the Michael Chandler we know, that's my boy. The boy who puts his hands down and walks in there like a gorilla and says, let's fuck shit up. That's why we love him, okay? He's so like that he's spent this entire week trying to convince everybody that he's not going to do that. That's how much he's like that. And we love that. Charles Oliveira, number 2 spot. He beat Michael Chandler before. Maybe you saw me on one-on-one MMA with Laura Sanko and Dean Thomas. Gave my little brief analysis of this co-main event. I'll tell you again, if you didn't see it there, Charles Oliveira, I think he's going to do it the exact same way that he did it last time. We're going to get the TKO victory in the second round. I just think Michael Chandler doesn't know how to stick to the game plan. It's not in his DNA. It's just not in his DNA. He doesn't even have an exit strategy. When he goes in there and he just says, let's just fuck it up, he doesn't leave. He just stands in the same spot. Like, I'm not an expert, but that's just not, I just don't think. So he claims that this is Michael Chandler 2.0, but I just really think it's Michael Chandler again, 2.0, Michael Chandler again. It's our boy, okay? It's our all gas, it's our no breaks. And I think that Charles Oliveira, despite being like a little sketchy sometimes and, because he gets hit and he gets rocked, he's extremely durable. And he is that real. He's absolutely proved himself. I think both of these men have definitely proved themselves as amazing mixed martial artists. Definitely has the potential to be the fight of the night. I mean, Charles Oliveira, most submission victories in the UFC, calf slicer. That calf slicer submission, that's some scary stuff, okay? And he's a corkster, and we always got to vote for a Corky Corker. So go do Bronx. We're going to go, TKO, definitely. On to the main event. Interesting fight. How do you even analyze this? We have so little fight time to even look at in the past 4 years. That's very rare. Come a main event, obviously we got a Battle of the Legends champion versus number 8. Number 8 is not a really great way to sum up Stipe Miocic. He is the most decorated heavyweight. Jon Jones is Jon Jones. He's the ghouliest legend in the UFC. He kind of talks like a cult leader. He's a very unique human being. Very, very, very unique. Definitely has more to lose here. He's a bit of a fool in my opinion, but not really. Not a fool in the sense of stupid. He's very, very smart. He's extremely artistic in there and absolutely capable. Kicks, whoopsie. The grand consensus is that Jon Jones is the best fighter in the UFC, and it would be silly not to take that perspective very seriously. I think he's so smart that the Aspinall BS is just all a gimmick. Like, he's not, anybody who says he's afraid of Tom Aspinall, I disagree with. Like, we love Tom Aspinall, and I think he could beat Jon Jones, but I don't think Jon Jones is afraid of Tom Aspinall. He's all just trying to generate this hype, generate the talk, and it worked. Everybody got really mad, myself included. I got very, very mad on Tom's behalf. Jon Jones has a lot of power. Okay, he has a lot of power, not so much in the hands. He's more of a technical caught you slipping type fighter, but he's got a lot of power because we're back to the old gloves. We're not fighting with the new gloves anymore, thank God. Okay, because I've heard some bad things. Jon Jones ultimately, I think because he's got a lot more to lose here. If Stipe loses, he's still Stipe. If Jon Jones loses, it does really kind of impact the record. And I just don't see it in Stipe's eyes. But ultimately, these are two old guys. And it's a really weird fight, and we do not have a great way to analyze it. I don't really think Stipe should be that much of an underdog. Come on, guys. Like, he's kind of a classic. He's a classic boxer. And I think that if it was something that ended up in decision, it could easily go in Stipe's favor because if he just stays right there in the pocket and does his boxing thing where he's most deadly. But he just doesn't really seem in it. And it's Jon Jones. So I'm going to go with Jon Jones, but I'm going to go with Jon Jones actually via decision, and I think it could even be boring. I hope that it's not. We'll see. It's going to be great. Special thanks, Sure Dog. Special thanks, MMA Junkie. That's where we get our stats. That's where we get our info. Special thanks, UFC, of course. Special thanks, Laura Senko and Dean Thomas. Love you guys. You're my faves. Come back for another lesson on